Welcome finally to my Age of Empires 2 Return of Rome review. And I want to first show you how I experienced it when I got it on the launch day, to show you the main problem in my eyes right at the start. So on the first day I was of course looking where to find it, and there was nothing on the title page, and I thought maybe here, Western Europe, or Europe here, maybe Eastern Europe. No, I did not find the campaign. I thought there's going to be campaigns and the civilizations will be added, so I went out and in and out and in again, like a lot of people, as you can even see by a lot of questions asking where to find it. And then I found out you have to press this button here and the game switches to Return of Rome. So it's a game within a game, and for sure you're not playing Return of Rome in Age of Empires 2, you're playing a somehow separate game. But what do you get then? Well, there is a single player mode, and of course we have campaigns. There are 3 campaigns: Trajan, which is the Roman, Pyrrhus, the Macedonian, and Sargon, the Sumerian campaign. And there are 5 scenarios in each campaign, so 15 missions in total, but you do not get the original ones. The other mode is of course Skirmish, where you can find a lot of maps, and they are, as you see, other maps than in Age of Empires 2, so if you are looking for Arabia or Black Forest, they are not there. But the basic designs are very much leaned into typical H2 designs. We also have 17 civilizations, including the new one, the Lakviet. There's even a multiplayer button, and as you already see from the map names, they are H2 maps, so no Return of Rome. I think this is nothing for multiplayer enthusiasts, exactly because of the way it is integrated. Alongside you get H2 content as well. The Romans as a civilization with their own unique troops, and some new artwork like castles and towers. So let's take a look at the real gameplay. It is very much like H2 mixed up with Definite Edition of Part 1. This means you have now more comfort functions, and the basic look is even more H2-like. There's the town bell now to garrison your villagers, the fields are built with a common A button and not F like before, and we have gates now finally. Hooray for that! The gameplay itself is much faster than in H1, but of course there are typical H1 things, like you have the storage pit where you can collect wood, stone, gold and hunted food, and the granary that is like the windmill for harvesting fields but not hunted animals. The granary is also the upgrade building for defensive structures like towers and walls, and the pit is like the blacksmith to upgrade military units. You also have one more military building, that is the academy, to train the special infantry, the hoplites. But you do not have a castle, since that was not there in H1, so towers are the main ways to protect your expansion and your home base. The graphics are very common to H2 players, the terrain is the same, and the buildings are the things that look more like H1. But the performance is subpar, it eats up a lot of your power without any reason, so I had to switch off a lot of stuff to record or make it even more playable. But especially when you look at the graphics and realize that every civilization looks more or less the same, you ask yourself, where's the difference to Age of Empires 1 Definite Edition, and again, what exactly is Return of Rome? So I checked into the Definite Edition of 1 that was released 2018 and did not hold on to expectations up till now. The menu and hub never really look good, and way too much like first choice and not a fitting one for the time period. The mechanics and looks are more like the original one with some comfort functions, but as well not really thought to the end. And when I played the original first part again, I thought Return of Rome is more or less the definite edition that we should have gotten in 2018, and that all reminded me more like the Age of Empires 2 HD version that for me is now more like the definite edition of the first one, and Return of Rome more like the real definite edition in a way. You get my confusion, I'm sure. But the whole premise is what causes it. Return of Rome represents the definite edition of H1. It modernizes it, but stops at some points where it could have gone further, and it separates itself from H2. Completely, more or less. If you only play H2 and do not want to train wrong production ways or thinking, you pay the whole price of $15 for exactly one civilization without any solo campaign. If you already own H1 Definite Edition, you get now what you paid for once, but have to play it in H2. So, for whom is this finally? This is the question the community stumbles very much over all the time, and it feels like even the developers have not thought about that. I was, like most, thinking this is a normal H2 expansion that brings us the old civs and some new campaigns and graphics into H2. And that was exactly why I pre-ordered it. But what we got is a somehow standalone game that fails to go further in modernizing and feels more like H1 Definite Edition wrapped in the wrong place and sold the wrong way. I could also have appreciated to bring it more to H2, so that it really is changing more than some simple things, like forget the academy, integrate the hoplites into the barracks, make the granary food collecting and not the pit, give the town center a defensive structure and add castles or forts if you want to name them more properly Roman, as a castle-like defensive building to give it more strategic ways. So make it as much H2 as you can, so that it's not a game outside of H2, but still inside of it. I think you all get the dilemma, but it is house-made. I think if they would have asked the community or thought their way, no one would have chosen the DLC that we got. Either upgrade the Definitive Edition or do a normal DLC for H2 like Dukes or India. That would have been perfectly alright. But if you really choose to do it that way, then do it to the end. Modernize it, really not halfway, do not stop at garrison. Put in the defensive town center that really has a purpose, that is to prevent rushing, and it feels so much better, especially for untrained players. Or add castles, cause the towers can't stand very much, and so on. So, can I recommend it in the end? If you are a special type of player who has a weak spot for H1 in his heart and the Definite Edition did not really live up to your expectations, you do not miss the old campaigns, and you're willing to pay again? Yes. If you only play H2 and are not a total crazy Roman enthusiast who has waited all the years that he can finally fight the Huns, Goths or Celts with the appropriate enemy, that is the Romans, then I would rather doubt if the package is worth the price. For me, I can enjoy it, but the tactical limitations due to the missing of castles and the possibilities to rush, as well with the fact that buildings are built up and destroyed much faster, and you always have to switch with the whole pit granary upgrade stuff in your thinking, makes me only want to play some campaigns and stick to H2 for the skirmish mode, especially not to lose the abilities and to get into new patterns. Generally, I really dislike the idea of Return of Rome being something like a separate game, and think this could have been done much better by everyone, checking the community wishes and needs. At least they seem to care now, but more testing and thinking could have made up for a much better start. Age of Empires 2 will always be at 96% concerning strategy games, for there is no perfect 100 for me. And I can have fun with Return of Rome, but it's not for everyone. I would give it a well-meant 79%, for I think that I'm gonna drop it sooner or later and would rather not come back, I fear. But I always have a weak spot for H1 in my heart. So, what is your opinion? Do you agree or not, and why? I would really like to see your personal percentage ratings in the comments if you like. Give the clip a thumbs up if you want, or follow the channel, it really helps a lot. Thanks for being here and seeing you again for more Age content or other stuff on the channel soon.